Hey everyone, welcome to the walk and talk for this week. Today we're going to cover the Storz Bickel Veazy. And again, another windy and kind of rainy day, which sucks. I'm trying to knock this thing out before it rains. It's supposed to rain all weekend, so it'll be about the only one chance I get. So that's what we're up to. I decided to cover this instead of the back X because it's new. That way we can get some information out there before people buy it. I know I have a few comparisons, but today we're going to cover a little more in depth. It's probably going to be a lot of the same information, but kind of get to see it on a walk. Overall, size-wise, it's great. I quite like the size. It's a little bit bigger than the flow. The flow comes up to right about where that cooling unit starts. So it's just a tad bigger, about the same width. A little bit lighter. To load it, pop the top, kind of like a venti. It's twist and pull. And we'll go ahead and load this thing up right here. Dump some urban. Great day for this, nice and windy. Oh, but playing arm gymnastics, switching sides on me, Cooper. All right, so we're gonna heat it up. It does take a while to heat up. I think it says 40 seconds, but it feels like forever to me. A lot of devices out nowadays heat up pretty quickly. This isn't one of them, which is one of its downsides, because when I use a portable vape, a lot of times I just want to get my bowl and get out, because again, don't really live someplace where you can do it public. So I'm usually not trying to waste a bunch of time with a device heating up. But the size is pretty appealing to me. Other ones I like to take when I'm out on a walk are like the Fat X, is probably my favorite, because you can store a little bud on it and I can just take the dog for a walk, have a few bowls. The flow, unusable to me. The Veazy, I can use it. I don't think it's a terrible vape. I know some reviews out there aren't very high on that, and a lot of that's going to have to do with the flavor. Other than that, really not a ton of complaints. It doesn't have very long battery life, but really when it's this small, what do you expect? Hit strength is decent. As soon as it heats up, which it has now, we will show that when we get into these woods here. That way, really don't run into wind problems, which I kind of experienced with the Fat X. So yeah, we're going to take our first rip right here. Little cloud. First rip on it. Doesn't taste terrible. I wouldn't call it great, but it's definitely a little bit more. It's definitely a little bit more of a muted flavor than, say, the venti. I've tried a mighty before. From remembering, I want to say the mighty tasted better than this too. I've never tried a crafty, so I couldn't tell you. But overall, the flavor isn't as good. I kind of think it might be the screen material in the bottom. Could be the cooling unit, but I kind of doubt that. I'm gonna take another rip. The one thing positive I could say about this is the hit strength. It's strong enough that I can feel it. Like, I get a pretty good buzz off this vape, and I have a pretty high tolerance, so I would say that it works pretty good in that regard. It's mostly just the flavor thing, and it's a lot more restricted than, say, the venti is, which I think gives you a little bit more of that harsh hit. And then kind of a cough. Like, I cough up this vape sometimes. I rarely ever do on the venti. We're gonna take another rip. A decent cloud. And I usually take about 4 hits off this thing. The bowl size, pretty much the same size as the venti. Take our last rip. While we watch the dog take a shit. Give him some privacy. Now we'll look at the AVB. Pretty, well, I always like a light brown color. Kind of something that I come to expect with the S&B devices is decent AVB. Personally, I'm not a big AVB snob. I think a lot of the AVB thing is overblown. I can just go by effect. That's my main criteria, which I will cover right now because I've covered a lot of vapes and really never really went over what my priority list is. So my first priority with the vape is effect. If I'm not getting effect, I don't get the point of using it. Number one, I think that's obvious. Number two is hit strength. I prefer a heavier hit. I will sacrifice heavier hits for flavor pretty much every time, unless it's like doing dabs. At dabs, I will do more low temp dabbing because I like flavor off dabs, and I still get hit pretty hard by it. But with bud, I like flavor, but it's not going to come at the expense of hit strength for me. So those are kind of my main criterias. After that, I look at build quality. I don't like jank. You've probably heard me talk shit about Chinese vapes before. I don't like janky things, so I like something that's a little more refined. Storz Bickel, generally this device right here, it's solid, right? Like the build quality is good. There's not really a whole lot of problems with it. I know some people had this thing shake. Mine didn't do that. So there's probably some tolerance issues with the venti. Hard to say. I'd have to see one that actually shook to kind of figure it out. But overall, I kind of like the size. I think the colors they chose are hideous. Like this blue couldn't be worse. You couldn't have picked a worse color blue. But overall, this vape is not terrible. I think at $250, it's probably a little pricey, but you kind of have to expect that with Storz and Bickel that you're going to pay a little bit more. And yeah, I think that's where they landed on this. I think this is going to be more interesting once it goes 25% off and you get down into that sub 200 range. I think at that point it becomes significantly more interesting. But overall, if I were to compare this to a couple, which I'm going to do because it's not going to be the longest video, because I do plan on doing a lot of comparisons with this one. So we're going to load another bowl up. Struggle bus with the stash. But overall, things that are nice about this vape right here is you can kind of load it by just pouring it in a doob tube or like the stash. I just pour it and dump it. And then to unload it, just like any other S&B device I've had, you just shake it out and it's going to fall right out, which I think is nice, especially for walking. Come on, Coop. Which I think is nice, especially for walking, because less hassle. To me, a vape is really, when you have a few, it's a lot more about where does this vape fit for the moment. And for me, like these smaller ones, they're more for walks. You're not going to catch me using this at home unless I'm doing testing. But if you're someone that's using it as your main vape, I kind of look at what I would buy a little differently. For walking, I would consider this pretty good. It would be between this, the Fat X, and the Lobo for me. The flow is out. The Lobo is a heavier hitter in every way. Taste to me is pretty similar. I think the Lobo taste is kind of similar to this taste. It's not great. Don't buy the Lobo and expect a great tasting vape. It's not that. But it's probably one of the heaviest hitting ones as far as the battery goes. And then if you get to like the Fat X, which I think is better than this in almost every way except for one major problem, is it's not the easiest device to use if you're new. If you haven't had vapes that were maybe not quite as refined at the intuitive level for like user interface, the Fat X can be quite complicated. It's a one button interface. It has lots of settings you could change with just that one button. And then when you take a hit, if you use like say a Tiny Mic 2 or something versus like a Veazy or a Venti, you might have noticed that when you inhale, certain vapes, the way you inhale makes a huge difference on the type of vapor you get. The Fat X is one of those vapes. The Veazy really isn't, so much more carefree here. If you're talking about carefree walk vapes, I would probably put it between the Veazy and the Fat X if you're looking for something tiny. If that's not your number one concern, I would probably skip right over this, go get a Venti. A Frolic would be among my top actual portables. And the reason I like the Venti and say even the Veazy and even the Frolic, and I know it sounds stupid because it's a plastic vape, and I hate plastic vapes, is that the major advantage to a plastic vape is you can, and I'll do this again right here, you can do that, and this damn thing's probably still going to work. Now, they're really not any worse for the wear. Now with the Tiny Mic 2, would you do that with the Tiny Mic 2? I'd almost do that with this, but Tiny Mic 2 you wouldn't do that. You're probably not going to stick it in your pocket with a bunch of change, so it's kind of a complication when you're out. Plastic vapes, you don't have that problem. So it's something I do appreciate having in my arsenal. It might not be something I would use if I was going to a buddy's house. I might grab, say, a Tiny Mic 2 then. But for the most part, I look at portable vapes, and this is one of my major criteria, is portability. The Taffy Bull is going to be that one exception there. That's because its performance outweighs almost everything on it. It's one of the reasons I give it a pass in that regard. But I kind of look at portables as what they're supposed to be, portables. I don't really consider them desktop replacements. I haven't seen a really good one yet. The Frolic and the Back X are probably the closest you're going to get to that. And there's some other ones. Tiny Mic 2, the Taffy hit up there. But for the most part, if you're looking for something to actually use while you're outside or going somewhere, the plastic vapes are going to have to kind of cross your path unless you're one of those people that are super careful with things. I'm not, clearly. Throw the vape on the ground. We're going to go ahead and heat this one up. That's kind of my philosophy with it. That I would like my portable vapes to be portable. I'd like to be out in the garage working and be able to toss it on the bench. Not really worrying if it's going to hit a screw and scratch or something. That's mostly why you're probably going to see me prefer a lot of that style in my top 5. It's going to be more geared towards portables. This one, however, will not be one of them that's shaking up the list. And I'm still hoping to have that out by the end of September, but we're kind of running out of time and I have quite a few more to cover. But back to the Veazy. So, to sum this guy up, as we take a few hits, not a very fast heat up time, about 40 seconds. To load it, it's a turn and pull, load, and then dump to shake out. I'm going to take our first rip here. Size wise is great. I have forgotten about this in my pocket before, so pocket feel pretty much perfect. Flavor, out of 10 I would give it a 6. I would give the Venti maybe an 8. I wouldn't give it a high score, but I would say it's about 2-point difference in flavor for me. As far as where it fits in the market, kind of confusing because I feel like a lot of the smaller vapes, like say the Fat X, which is similarly priced, are better. I think the Lobo in lots of ways is better. It's harsher though, but you can change the stem and probably fix that problem. And that's about it with those. The Flow, like I said, I wouldn't recommend the Flow. I know you have the Air Vape Legacy Pro 2, but I've heard things about that too that don't really give me great impressions of it. So this is probably going to be like in the top 2 or 3 actually small portable vapes in my opinion. So I don't think it's a terrible purchase. I don't think it's going to review really well with people that know vapes. If people have codes, they might review it nicer. I'm not going to give it a great review. I would say average vape, good size. When it's on sale for 25% off, potentially a good value. If you'd rather have a Storz Bickel device than say the Lobo, I would consider that a good value at that point. I'm going to dump that. I'll show you the ABB. Pretty much same every time. It's just the same color on every S&B device. And I'm vaping. I'm vaping at 410. With the Veazy, you don't have the screen like the Venti. So you set the temperature in an app, or it starts out and you can boost it twice to get to 410. I think the starting temp's like 380 something. I could be wrong. I didn't really pay attention with that. But yeah, it's a nice little small device. I've used it quite a bit. I've used this a lot more than I've used the Flow in the week I've had it. Because it's actually usable. I don't hate using it. It's just, yeah, the flavor is a little off. It's not, I wouldn't even call it off. I've tasted this flavor with plenty of vapes. But the flavor isn't just great. So that's kind of the one thing I would really judge it on is the flavor. And build quality, I feel like the plastic does feel cheaper, but I kind of expect that on a budget device, that they didn't use as high quality materials, or maybe not as thick. I'd have to take out a caliper to measure some parts, but it just feels different in the hand. But overall, it's not terrible. It's not great. $250, I think it's overpriced by $75 just by the brand. I think this would be worth like $175 to $200 for being named Storz Bickel and being small. Personally, I would buy a Venti, or I would buy a Venti if I'm looking for a Storz Bickel device, or even a Mighty Plus. And if I was looking for something small, I would consider a Fat X if I was an experienced user, or a Planet of the Vapes Lobo. And I know the Rogue 2 from Healthy Rips is also supposed to be really good. That's what I would do to save some money, save $100. Buy one of those. But yeah, if you buy this, I wouldn't fault you. It's passable. I give it a passing grade. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Um, Not sure if I'm going to sell it yet. I plan to get rid of a lot of the battery portables after I'm done with this, and keeping the ones that I'm going to use for comparisons. But yeah, we'll see where that goes. Until next time, see you later. Goodbye.